Hello, welcome back to One on One. I'm joined by Josh Markowitz and Jared Kimball as they talk about the first 2 weeks of the college football season and look ahead to the coming week. Guys, let's get right into it. Who has been the most impressive team to you this far into the season?
I'm going with the Oregon Ducks. They romped 66-3 against Nicholls State in their first game and then went east and beat Virginia on the road 59-10. Their offense hasn't missed a beat under Mark Helfrich. I mean, Marcus Mariota, 9 carries, 235 yards. And their average touchdown play, 22.9 yards on their 17 touchdowns.
Wow. I'm going to go Clemson. They're the only team in the top 5 that did play a top 25 team, and they did go in and beat Georgia 38-35. Taj Boyd has looked fantastic, throwing 68.4% completion rate, looking good on the run, has 3 touchdowns, and Sammy Watkins has looked like an explosive NFL wide receiver. He had a great touchdown against Georgia in that first week game.
For me, I think the most impressive thing about Clemson, though, is how their defense held Aaron Murray in that first game. I think it was 10 or 11 of 28 passing.
Yeah, they had a great pass rush, and they got 3 turnovers in their first 2 games. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think Oregon's a little bit of a safe pick here. You know, we haven't seen an ACC team, take off like this at the beginning of the year. But let's flip it around now. Who's the most disappointing team you've seen this year so far?
I'm going to go USC of the Southern California variety. They have looked terrible. They lost to literally the easiest opponent in their conference in Washington State.
Close, yeah.
They also had some trouble against Hawaii. It wasn't until the second half they started to get going. Whittick and Kessler, the 2 quarterbacks that are both getting some touches, they only combined for 226 total yards in 2 games.
They need to get Marquise Lee the ball.
They haven't utilized Marquise Lee at all, and he's an NFL wide receiver already.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're doing. They're awful.
Yeah, it's been bad out in LA, but I'm going with Texas. They came in ranked 15th, romped 56-7 over New Mexico State, and then they went and played BYU and lost 40-21 and gave up 550 yards rushing, 679 overall, and fired their defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz. David Ash has a head injury, questionable, and they have Ole Miss this weekend. Ole Miss is a good team. This is looking bad for the Longhorns, and it's honestly just been continuing a trend since they lost to Alabama in the 2009 championship game. They're only 24-17 since that game.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think, there's both teams that should not be doing as bad as they were. I mean, 550 yards, really, this is Texas. But, I mean, Southern California, with the talent they have, it's just not excusable. But hopefully, they can rebound down the stretch. But let's take a look at some of the players that, have been good to start this year. Who's your early Heisman Trophy favorite?
I'm going Teddy Bridgewater. Yes, they've only played Ohio and Eastern Kentucky, but the schedule's favorable, and he set himself up for a good rest of the season. 46-60, 752 yards, 9 TDs, only 1 interception, and a 228.1 QB rating. He's doing what he needs to do to get the trophy later in the year. Louisville is a favorable schedule in the American Athletic Conference, and he's just looking really good for a future bid. Braxton Miller hasn't done anything. Other favorites just haven't looked as good as Teddy Bridgewater.
I like Teddy Bridgewater. That's a great pick, but I'm going to have to go with Todd Gurley, the running back for Georgia. He looks absolutely fantastic. He's played 2 top 25 teams.
Yeah,
in
Georgia
Clemson
and South Carolina are really the only teams.
And they're
that
really
played
good defenses. And he's 7th in the nation with 288 yards. He has 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. And if he keeps on this pace, he's going to get 1,872 yards, which, if you paid attention last year, would be 2nd in the nation. And if he keeps the touchdowns up,
the thing is, Heisman voters really don't gravitate towards running backs. If there's a flashy quarterback like a Bridgewater, like a Manziel, like a Taj Boyd, they're going to gravitate towards the quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm really surprised, guys. Really no Johnny football love up here. I mean, Todd Gurley, that's a sneaky pick, but I got to go with Teddy right now. He looks good to start the year. But those are some of the best players. Who are the teams you're looking at national title contenders at the end of the season, Jared?
I know it's early, but I'm going to have to go Oregon, which Josh mentioned earlier, and Texas A&M. Oregon just has too much of an explosive offense with DeAnthony Thomas and Marcus Mariota, which you mentioned. And they have some good small weapons like Josh Huff and Thomas Tyner, who's the freshman running back. They've just looked like an incredible team, 664 yards per game, 62.5 points per game, and they have a decently hard schedule. Only their biggest tests are Washington, UCLA, and Stanford really hasn't looked that good, who is ranked number 5 right now.
Yeah, Stanford on the road is going to be a tough test for them. They only beat David Fales and San Jose State by 34-13. But I do like Oregon to make it, but I think Bama's going to get there, and Bama's going to beat them. Yes, they had a poor offensive performance against Virginia Tech, but they still won 35-10. That's how good they are. TJ Yeldon, Amari Cooper, and that offensive line, so good surrounding McCarron, and that defense led by C.J. Mosley has the speed to keep up with Oregon.
But McCarron has just looked terrible. I think
It's one game.
I think Texas A&M is going to pull it out this Saturday.
You know,
and they're
really
gonna
what
go
it
to the
sounds like it's going to come down to is the Texas A&M Alabama game, because y'all both got Oregon, so it's going to come down to those two.
Just remember, Texas A&M gave up 28 points to Sam Houston State.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for this edition of One on One. But be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at One on One Sports. Thanks for watching, as always, and whose side are you on?